will call to order the Tuesday, August 25th, 1 p.m. School Board Workshop. Please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and our national anthem. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ramirez, present.
Janie, Ruddy.
Furry.
Christy, Chong.
LaShakia Moore.
Okay, we'll go on to board member liaison updates. Starting with Ms. Ramirez.
Thank you. So we're going to start with Belterre Elementary School. They've been very, very busy. They actually had their first PTO and their SAC, so that's the School Advisory Committee and Parent-Teacher Organization meeting, week 1 of school. So they started off real quickly. The PTO was a great turnout and it was wonderful, but unfortunately SAC, they didn't have enough members for a quorum. So, parents, guardians, volunteers, highly recommend joining, researching it. You are the ones that make the vote for when a lot of funding come in, and Belterre Elementary was an A school, so there will be some funding to delegate. So please keep that in the back of your mind. Their next meeting will be Wednesday, September 9th. So PTO will be at 7:40 a.m. and then SAC transitions about 8:10ish after that. So go ahead and check that out. STAR and FAST testing are starting and actually have started this week. So just keep that in mind. And one thing I just wanted to remind, my family and I were talking about it. So we're only week 2 and people, including, parents, myself, oh no, testing. But I want you to think of it not as a test. So it's really to see where your child's at. And I think the faculty have been really, really great at not saying test and scaring them. So just know the campuses are doing a really great job on that. It's just gauging. Progress monitoring. So a lot of parents are thinking tests, so progress monitoring. And it will help to see where your students are at, if they need anything more challenging or if they need assistance. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Lots of things are coming up. So September 4th, Sweet Melissa's Ice Cream. They're one of our small local businesses. They're always continuing to support our schools. So for a small fee, students will be able to have ice cream from them. And if you have not tried, they have really good ice cream. Their first dance will be September 18th, and the theme is Golden Theme, and volunteers are always welcome. You do need to have that process, for background check and whatnot, so take a look at that. I checked, and they actually have quite a few volunteers, so first dance, lots of volunteers, but keep that in mind, they're always looking for more, every campus. Matanzas, very, very busy week. This week they had fall play auditions. Of course, they also have some progress monitoring, so just keep that in mind. Make sure everyone's getting well-rested sleep. God bless you. And they have lots of meetings too. So organizations, clubs, sports, they're starting. So this week, actually today, wrestling. I mean, everything is starting. Bowling started last week. So if you have a child in high school or middle school and they're interested in a club, organization, things are starting, so reach out. I'm sure they'll be happy to have them. And also with sports, very important, paperwork. I myself was on that computer uploading, trying to figure out the EL2, EL3, EL4, EKG. There are directions. You just have to take your time and read them, and you can find them. So if you need assistance, the schools will help you, but you do have to do it, but it's just one and done, and you'll be good for the rest of the time. So keep that in mind. EPAC, so Exceptional Parent Advocacy Council. I just spoke with the new chair on my way walking up here, so she's doing great things. So they have a Facebook page. I highly recommend you take a look at it. Their first meeting will be September 9th, so they do virtual and in person. We have the Focus on Flagler Youth Coalition. Not a lot going on. They do have a meeting tomorrow just to kind of regather. So for those that aren't aware, this organization, it supports healthy youth and families for prevention of tobacco, alcohol, and drug use. And our students are very highly involved, middle and high school students. So I will keep you posted as I hear more. Florida School Board Association, so let's see, as part of the Know and Grow Committee, so the team that I'm working with, we've been reaching out to all the newly elected school board members across the state of Florida to welcome them. Lots going on behind the scenes. We have 67 school districts in our state, so that is 358 school board members serving. And then we recently had our 2026 legislative session summary that was sent out. There are a lot of updates, changes, so I just really picked a couple things on there. You know, the base student allocation, which you have heard back before, $85 per student. They kept things maintained with our school safety, mental health, and transportation and ESE, and different flexibilities for physical education. I know a lot of band parents are very excited about that, so it's, you know, they're trying to really think outside the box and what makes sense. And even our Special Olympics and IEP teams have different requirements that they can, you know, get better accommodations for. And there is a Florida School Music Association Board of Directors team. Miss Ruddy, I thought would be a good person for that to look into, but they are looking for individuals to represent the music aspect. And that concludes my liaison updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I did submit my name to the FSBA to be the representative for the Florida School Music Association. It is a presidential appointment, presidential from the FSBA, but they are looking for people with some sort of affiliation with the fine arts. I have played in local community orchestras for decades now, and all three of my children participated in the band and or youth strings programs and continue to do so. So we'll see what the outcome is of that, and I'll keep you updated. Yesterday, FPC held their SAC meeting, and it was very fruitful. We were very close to the numbers in terms of the ratio of staff to community members. When you have a SAC meeting, you can't have a certain, over a certain percentage, I believe it's 50%, of staff. Because the whole point of it is that it is a community collaboration. But they were able to hold the meeting and went over specifically their school improvement plan goals for this coming year. They have 6 items on the list. Several were either requirements based upon their testing and other performance results from last year, and some are initiatives being directed from the superintendent and her leadership board, which I felt was very apropos. For example, when we invest a lot in professional learning, professional development, and instructional programs, one of their goals is to essentially monitor the implementation, and it's not like a police or I got you, but you've got to think teaching can be a very isolating career. You're in a room many times, you're the only adult in the room, and we know that people grow in their professions by collaboration, conversations, And so those kinds of conversations are more robust when you have other people who can come in and have that back and forth with you. So I know that that has been successful in our county as a whole, that the district has undertaken walkthroughs across the county, as well as Buddy Taylor specifically attributed their success this past year to far exceeding that cross collaboration and discussion. And so I'm eager to see how those outcomes push FPC even further. Another item is their growth for ELA. They have also a new group of students that reached a minimum threshold, and that is Native American students, which is not what comes to mind as when we typically use that word, but in the federal definition and the state definition, they differ slightly, and so that can be inclusive of those who are Central and South American. And so that pushed that group of students to be large enough that they needed to pay specific attention to the outcomes of those students on their performance. I did press and ask why math was not an item on their school improvement plan. It's typically goes hand in hand with the ELA, but FPC and in particular Ms. Collier assured me that they have had a long trend of solid math performance, and that even though our district as a whole, our math didn't move the number of points we were hoping, FPC met that challenge, and they're feeling very confident that their staff has not had changes and that growth is going to continue. So I feel confident in that as well, in their interest, their insight. They started off the year with a positive bang, and that's another element, is that they're really focusing on their school culture, which I really thought that they did a great job last year. They have a great buddy system for freshmen, but they started off the year with some pep rallies, and they're doubling down on that focus with PBIS to really reward students for doing what's expected and shining with bulldog bucks. Reminds me of our rimfire days, right? So that's great, and we'll look forward to that. FBC also has a new allied health teacher, and that really complements the classroom to careers programs in the health, and also really Fire Academy. I would imagine it's probably going to play a role. Rimfire has their SAC meeting on Thursday. Yes, today's Tuesday, so this would be Thursday in the morning. I hope that I'll see you there. They already also had a PBIS blast. PBIS is positive behavior, where, you know, I think doing it early in the year, what their strategy was to give students a taste of what it's like to participate in that reward, and hopefully get those students who maybe struggle a little bit with their behavior a taste of what that could be if they hang on to that, to abiding by those expectations. There's also the value added board for the county is meeting on Thursday, and they have an organization meeting that currently doesn't affect us, but will in November potentially, but I'll let you know if anything else comes out of that. Yes, iReady is underway in several schools, and again, is a diagnostic 3 times per year, and really helps educators understand what maybe learning loss happened over the summer, right? And what they need to maybe support before they get into some of the new curriculum. Let's see here. Feel like, okay, legislative summary, Ms. Ramirez went over that. We were ahead of the curve on that in 2 areas. And that was recognizing band as a PE credit, as well as the screening for the heart monitoring, which again, this year, we've uncovered several students who were potentially saved through that screening, so that's great. There is some news from the Small District Association. That's another group we belong to and help advocate for us on our behalf. And a couple of notes that they've provided, just pull that up. There is something called E-rate, and E-rate helps to supplement payment for internet and things of that nature. Well, the FCC has issued a notice of proposed rulemaking that may impact and create significant changes to that program, and one of them is ending it altogether, or restricting the participation in that program to only rural schools. They are currently essentially taking public feedback on that. I'll post, and I'm sure the district will post if you're interested in providing or receiving some information, but that would be a pretty big impact to all Florida schools, I would imagine. And they're also accepting public input up until, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I think it's September 4th. I'll double check on that, but the Department of Health is proposing removing immunization requirements for public and private schools, specifically for chickenpox, pneumonia, and so that is, again, there's a 21-day waiting period for public input before they make those decisions. I believe that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. So great to be back with everybody. Just a couple of events that took place since we have last met. First was our welcome back. I just want to say that was an amazing rally to see everybody so excited to start the year off as an A school district. And Superintendent Moore did a great job of showing them what our expectations are for this next school year and how we maintain our A. And looking at that, I think we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And everybody left there confident in that fact. And one other thing I wanted to note about that meeting is that Superintendent Moore asked the entire audience, mind you, we have filled the Fitzgerald theater.
Every seat.
Right, every seat, up to the balcony. And she had asked everybody that lived in Flagler County to stand up. And I thought that was quite a moment, because really almost everybody in the room stand up. And that just shows you how important Flagler Schools is to this community, but all the people of this community that invest in education here at Flagler Schools. So I'm really pleased that you highlighted that, and we have a dedicated staff here that works so hard to educate your children, and they really pulled out the stops this year, and I know we have great things to come.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to highlight that. Also, we also had the annual first day of school walk, and that's always been one of the wonderful moments of my tenure is participating in that, and it was so great to see the enthusiasm of our students. Right, you could see the joy, the confidence. I recall when we were at Matanzas High School, we landed there at lunchtime, and I queried the kids at the table and said, so what would you rather have had, more summer or be back at school? And overwhelmingly, they said, we're glad to be back.
Yeah.
So I was just so encouraged by that they couldn't wait to get back to start learning again. So that was encouraging. So I'll just move on to Indian Trails. Not a lot to report right now, but they did commemorate their 30 years anniversary with a banner in their gymnasium. So that's some pride for the school there to celebrate. They have an upcoming SAC meeting on Thursday, September. Let me put my glasses on. I believe that's a 3. But I don't want to put false information out. Yeah, the 3rd at 5:30 there. And at Old Kings, they have their fall festival coming up here, and they're looking for sponsors for their dunk tank. That's going to be a fun event there. And they have, any takers here on the board to get dunked? Maybe so?
I did it for Belterre. That was.
It was rough.
You and my husband.
At least if the weather hasn't cooled down too much, I think we'll be all right. So, but Wednesday, September 2nd, is their next SAC meeting at 4:30 at the Okies Media Center. So that's all I have for updates today. I'll pass it on to Chair Chong.
All right, so I'll start with the Chamber of Commerce. They were visited Advent for yet another primary care opening. That one is next to Chicken Salad Chick. They also were with me at my ribbon cutting as well with Advent, and we greatly appreciate their involvement in the community. Our county's growing, and I'm just glad to see more primary care. We know it's greatly needed. The Chamber is also partnering with Career Source to host interns from ages 16 to 24 to help with local businesses. It's a great way for students to get some volunteer hours, and the contact for that is Mark Thompson, so if anyone's interested, you can reach out to him. And the Education Foundation, September 25th, Flagler Schools will be hosting the College and Career Fair at the Palm Coast Community Center from 9 to noon. And this is a chance to share your college, university, connect with talent, showcase an industry, and inspire the next generation of professionals. October 4th will be the 2026 Pink Army 5K and Pet Friendly Walk, if anybody's into 5Ks. Proceeds will go to early detection screenings, cancer education, diagnostic testing, and resources for local patients. I can't stress enough, ladies, it's so important to get our mammograms done, and my own personal PSA that if cost is an issue, you can always ask for cash pricing. It'd sometimes be a lot cheaper. All right, and then the Fitzgerald Performing Arts, still a little bit away, but October 13th, they will have the President's Own United States Marine Band. That sounds really awesome. Probably one not to
That's
miss.
going to be, I mean, these are the top
Yeah.
musicians in the country.
Yeah, be awesome.
It is.
Benell Elementary, Kona Ice was rescheduled to the 27th due to the heat wave. Hopefully it cools down soon. PBIS fundraiser, they're now doing birthday singing grams. I've seen some of these on Facebook. They're really cute. They're $15. They'll dress in an inflatable costume and sing happy birthday to your child. And they will also receive a pencil and a certificate. All the proceeds to that will go to PBIS and the Buster Buck store. August 28th is Pajama Day. Bring $1 to participate, and all proceeds go to the 3rd grade field trip. And September 3rd is Back to School Literacy Night in the big cafeteria at 5:30. So parents, please come out and learn some strategies to help with reading at home. Long one today, guys. Wadsworth Under the Lights Fall Festival and Market will be held October 23rd at 5:30, and they are looking for vendors for that. Proceeds will go to the end-of-year field trips and special rewards for students. I'll finish with the Carver Center. They wrapped up their Grapevine summer camp. They had average attendance of 25 to 35 students daily for 6 weeks. This included learning programs as well as fun activities, and they ended with a water day. So thank you so much to the teachers and the staff that made that program possible. Thanks. Okay. So do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
Yes, several changes. We are going to, I am requesting that we move item 10.02 up, item 8.01. I'll list the items that I would recommend that the board discuss first, and then go into your normal flow of your agenda. So going 10.02, 8.01, 8.02, then 7.01, 9.01, 9.02, and then regular order. So that's 10.02, 8.01, 8.02, 7.01, and 9.01 and 9.02. Moving the school board policy update up as the first item, as that was one of the requests from a previous board meeting to ensure that you have ample time to do, to discuss that and we don't run into a time crunch.
Okay, great. I get a motion to approve the agenda for today.
Move to approve?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ruddy, second by Ms. Ramirez. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, do we have anybody for public comments?
No, we do not.
Great, then we will move on to 10.02, the board policy with Mr. Sanfilippo.
Good afternoon, Board. Superintendent Moore. We have two policies before you today. We're requesting permission to advertise. One is 6608, accountability and oversight for fundraising and crowdfunding disbursement. And the other is going to be 0141.1, student representation at school board meetings. We'll start with 6608. And if you look at 6608, we've kind of discussed this policy in depth a few times already. There's some additional language that was requested and was added to this policy. If you look at the bottom where it says district oversight, and just adds that language that we discussed at our previous meeting.
As I was reading this, I was just thinking, before it was reporting monthly, could we at least add just like the word annual in there? And I think that the school board should still be involved in that, just an annual report.
Which section are you talking about?
In the green, district oversight.
This report shall be made available for the superintendent on an annual basis. Or upon request.
It says annual already. Are you saying?
I think it says monthly, actually. It says a profit and loss report must be prepared and submitted to the principal monthly. So are you asking that the PTO provides it to the superintendent, or the principals / bookkeepers provides it to the superintendent on a monthly basis, or annual, or?
No, so
Wait, I think-
monthly was crossed out, and it says reports shall be made available to the superintendent. I think it should at least just say annually, unless I'm missing words.
Are you talking about I think she's talking about the bottom part, district oversight in
District
the green,
oversight.
not the top part.
And I think the school board should still just at least be included in on that, just for accountability.
Currently, we don't receive any specific reports on PTO fundraisers or monies, correct? Because that's not even reported within, we don't even get granular school by school
No,
accounting.
and I think you're asking that we receive it annually, not upon request or any of that, but to add annual to this.
Right, just
this language.
for a little more.
Well, I think it would, perhaps, if I'm understanding the spirit of what you're asking, is you want it minimally annually, but the superintendent should have the ability to request it at any time.
Of course.
Right?
So are you as a board okay with that language being added? Because we will add that, and this comes before them tonight to request. And just for the benefit of the public, just want to remind the public that we did not have our normal working meeting this month. And so there are items that are going to be at this meeting as well as at our 6 p.m. meeting as well. So if you're okay with that language, we will add that, make that amendment, and have that prepared for you as a board to consider tonight.
So for clarity though, who is, because if the PTO is providing those to the principal monthly, who is then funneling it to you? Are you asking the PTO, or Ms. Chong, are you asking that the PTO provides that reporting annually, or that the principal and their staff summarizes that annually to the superintendent?
Whichever is easier. I just want to make sure that, that we have some accountability here.
Well, they have to have monthly meetings and monthly minutes, which include monthly transactions, so that's already being done, so I don't think we need to add anything annually.
But what they're saying is she wants
Just
a
like
formal
one
report.
report.
Yeah, like, they all have an end-of-year balance requisition, right? And perhaps that, like, how much did they take in? How much did they give to the school, right? I think that that's already something that they're summarizing, and that way the superintendent doesn't have to ask for it, and it's just automatically provided. My only question is
Who is going to do it? But
I would imagine the intent is the PTO. When they do their year-end summary of
Email it
accounting.
to district staff.
Instead of just to the principal, to district.
As
staff
long as,
well.
I think if they're guided, because
Mhm.
PTO changes every year, so as long as they know who they need to send it to, but that if I don't think it's needed, but if the board thinks it is a good idea, I could go either way. I just want to make sure that it doesn't get lost in the transition of yearly.
I hope I'm
role
not
changes.
complicating it. I was hoping just by annually that would actually make it easier, because I know we crossed off monthly basis and took that out, so I hope that's making sense.
Yep.
So we will draft up language of just adding that in, and then we will have that for you tonight to consider as we request advertisement.
All right, thank you.
You got it. Next policy is 014. 1.1. Student representation at school board meetings.
I do have a comment that I do appreciate that this was created and workshopped, and, when students came in, they came to our workshop one day, they came to a meeting. I've met with students when I was at campuses, and they felt that they were heard, so I do appreciate it. I think it is looking, pretty good, but love everyone's thoughts.
Any questions, concerns?
And I want to just say publicly for the community, because I think there was a misunderstanding before related to this topic around their ability to participate and speak. They are absolutely, there is language that says that they must gain permission from the chair, as is standard order for Robert's rules. And so that is what that language is about.
I think that's good. We want them to be able to participate.
Yep.
So no further questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just real quickly on the orientation and training, I just think we've got a typo in the first line. I think it's, shall provide student representatives with a training or an orientation, whatever the board prefers.
We will correct.
With an orientation and training, okay.
We'll correct and make sure that we have that tonight as well.
Thank you, good catch.
Thank you.
Okay, 8.01 stop loss renewal with Mr. Walker.
And Ms. Danielle Boyle is here as well.
Welcome, Ms. Boyle. How are you?
Good, how are you? Nice to see you.
All right. Good afternoon, School Board Chair, Superintendent, School Board members. This afternoon, we have before you our stop-loss contract for the 26-27 plan year, which begins September 1st. This item we were able to get sent out to you guys a couple weeks in advance for your review. Given the consolidated meeting schedule, it will also be on the board for a business vote tonight at 6 p.m. We're here to answer any questions you have. We have a few different resources that have been provided, and we're here to kind of go through it.
Are we gonna put the,
You do it then. Go to the slide deck. I believe it'll be attachment 1, please, or 2.
thank you. This is a general slide that we provide for all of our clients, just outlining the state of the stop-loss market. We have seen, and I've spoken with you guys about this, an increased frequency of high-dollar claims. It's not unusual to see $1 million, $2 million claims anymore for one person, where it used to be, I never saw any, and now I see them every year. So with that, the stop-loss carriers end up paying out more, and what that means really for all of our clients, it's harder to get proposals, and a clean renewal will come out 20–30% sometimes. I have a client that has, they're running wonderfully. The stop loss carriers paid out about $300,000 in claims on $2.4 million in premium, and that client's getting a 22% renewal increase. It's like you're making millions of dollars on the one client, but it's because they're paying out so much. So happy to answer questions about that in a moment. We do have options for you though. We went out to the stop-loss market. 11 carriers declined to quote, saying they were uncompetitive. And you may say, well, why? Why is everyone uncompetitive? If they see anything within your population that isn't really attractive, they're cherry picking right now. They're cherry picking the most, the clients that they feel like they aren't going to have to pay anything out on. And despite the move to the claim doc model, there's still some hesitation. Some aren't comfortable with it. They aren't familiar with it. It's not run of the mill. Others are, and they do understand the value of it. And you'll see that in the claims projection on the recommended option that I have for you guys today. But we have one carrier, QBE, pulled their quote and said they needed 6 lasers, which are additional stop loss levels above what your $250,000 would call for. So at the end of the day, Ryan Specialty is recommended. Ryan Specialty is a general agent that understands reference-based pricing. They also partner with several stop-loss carriers. So Nationwide is the paper, Ryan Specialty was the underwriter. $250,000 stop-loss, which is what you have today, is about a 24% increase to your current premium. So not your funding rates, but the portion of your premium that covers any claims in excess of $250,000. So it's about a $128,000 increase versus what you're paying today. So that's a fixed known expense that would increase by 24%. So then we weigh different options, right? So what happens if we pay less in that known premium and transfer more of the unknown, or don't transfer more of the unknown? So we went all the way up to $500,000, and that would be a 63% reduction in what you're paying in premiums, about $250,000 less. But as you'll see in a moment, we did a break-even analysis, and it would only take one claimant reaching that $500,000 mark, and your savings would be gone and you pay more. So for this first year, I think maybe erring on the side of caution would be recommended, but we're happy to answer questions about that. The break-even analysis is the point which the premium savings from a higher deductible is fully offset by the additional claims. And so I'll walk you through the chart. First, I'm going to point to the very bottom. So your historical large claimants, we have 25-26 through July, and then your plan years back to 22-23. And the numbers that you're seeing are under each stop loss level. So starting with 250,000, which you have today, those first two columns are identical because we're looking at your current carrier, but moving to Ryan Specialty at 250,000. So for option 2, increasing it to 275,000, this year so far you've had 4 claimants that have exceeded $275,000. Last year you only had 1, but then the year before that you had 4. And so we look at historical frequency of these numbers to say, well, what are the odds that we might have 2 or 3 or more of various levels. All the way over to option 5 at 500,000, you can see in 23, 24, and in 22, 23, we did have claimants that exceeded 500,000. You have 1 each of those years. And so when we look at keeping your current $250,000 spec versus increasing to 275, for example, it would take 3 claimants reaching 275,000 for your savings to be gone and you're paying more. And for option 3, when we take it up to 350,000, sure you save in the premiums about 229,000, but it would only take 2 claimants breaching that 350,000. And then we've looked all the way up to that 500,000 mark, and you can see at both 400,000 and 500,000, it would only take 1 claimant for your savings to be gone. And so really it's just a matter of risk tolerance, and do you want to pay less in premiums, but know that there's a possibility of paying more with claims. Your renewal with ISU was a non-starter. They came out at a 43% increase. And the renewals or the options with Ryan Specialty, options 1 and 2 are what I've shown. If we needed to see the details that support the break-even analysis, we do have that. I didn't include it in this exhibit because it wasn't being recommended by cabinet. 250,000 is highlighted in the green. If you took it up to 275, it would be a 9% increase, just under 10%. However, that break-even analysis showed that looking at the past 4 years, the odds are you could exceed that. Now, what about, since we're moving to claim doc, our claims will be lower, right? For those high-cost claimants, it's harder to get to that 250. It's harder to get to that 275. That's true, and I was struggling with the recommendation on this one, in fact, And I think I would like to see a year of known data with ClaimDoc with you guys before recommending that you roll the dice. I certainly don't want you to increase it all the way up to 500,000 this year, because we need to see how your claims perform, and what else is going on with the plan. So I think if you're looking at moving the money from fixed to unknown, you could win, but there's definitely a possibility of making more. This is your aggregate claims liability. So this is the portion of the premium that you pay a very small amount for. It's about $24,000 in premium that you pay for this worst case scenario coverage. And what it means is if your claims exceed 125% of where the underwriter thinks they will be, then the stop loss will pick up the next $2 million in claims. And so this is all of your claims. It's not the one person having a bad year. It's if you have 40 people that have moderate years and your claims really are higher than the underwriters at Ryan Specialty expect you to perform at. So what's highlighted at the 9.2 million is the expected claims, and you can see it's a almost 24% reduction versus where your current stop loss lies. So they're saying your claims will be less. You're not going to have as high of overall exposure, but they're still concerned about a couple of the one person that has a $250,000, $275,000 claim. The aggregate claim liability is your 125% of that expected. So that's the 11.5 million. And then we have some benchmarking for you all. You sit right at that, the most common deductible being 300,000. But you see that there's some that have as low as 76 to 150,000, 150 to 250. I think you could look at bumping that up next year. I think it would probably be worth it after we have a year of data. And we bumped it last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep. This is our second year with 250. Well, this would be our third year.
Just additional benchmarking people, whether they have a rate cap, the no new laser contract, which you all have with Ryan Specialty, they included a rate cap and a no new laser contract. And then these are all the carriers.
So what's going before you tonight is going with option one, which was shown with Ryan Specialty, staying at the $250,000 spec mark. I know it's a lot of information. Stop loss insurance is always a really fun topic. However, are there any questions that we can help answer?
So going back to the lasers, now we did that in time past on, and that was that just one?
1 year you had one laser.
What, but just one. And you were saying that one of the carriers said in order for them to even quote it, we'd have to do 6 lasers.
6.
Okay. And just going back in time, comparing the 1 to the 6, how does that put us at a disadvantage for receiving their quote if we did the lasers? Is it just more out of pocket up front?
Well, no, you wouldn't pay more out of pocket up front, but depending on where those lasers needed to be, and really common is about $400,000, $500,000. It essentially means you don't have adequate protection for the people that are most likely going to hit your stop loss.
Mm-hmm.
So that changes your overall projection, because instead of capping your risk at 250, now you're capping it at 400 for the person who's probably going to end up you're going to use your stop loss
Right.
for.
Right. So they want to take the uncertainty off on their end.
Yeah, they just want to take the money and not have to pay the claims.
Exactly.
So thank you for jumping on the call and going through a lot of the questions that I had. One item that surfaced that I'm unclear on is something called experience refund.
Yes.
Can you clarify that again for me?
Yes, so an experience refund provision, there's typically a load on the premium, meaning it's usually worth about 5%, and it allows you to get a refund on the excess profit. So let's say you pay $1 million in stop loss premiums and the carrier only pays out $200,000 in claims. some of that is on the table for you to get back in the form of a dividend if you renew with that carrier. We were able to get that with your prior carrier, and Joshua, can you go back to the thing? The one before it. Yep. So with this one, we do not have it with Ryan Specialty.
And that
Was-
was my question with that.
Sorry, is that on the table? Is that something that was asked of them and they declined?
Yes, we ask that for all carriers as an option. Now, with the market not coming after your business, I don't have another quote to say they're gonna go with this one if you don't add it, is my concern. So if they add it, which is possible, there would be a premium load for them to do so. So then you're paying more known for the potential of getting something back if the things run well.
Well, I guess what I was thinking is, initially, I understand that the number of the stop losses that we hit over the last 3 to 4 years looks like it would be, currently more risk adverse for us to choose the $250,000 deductible. However, I was considering if we were able to negotiate the experience refund and then moving to the $275,000 deductible, because we're with claim docs and we're expecting to have a lower number of claims and or total costs, then perhaps that margin which we would need to cross would be more advantageous for us to go with that 275 and therefore a lower premium. But if we ended up hitting it, we could get, and not really hit that ceiling, we could recoup some of that loss through the experience refund. So I'm wondering, are they willing to, I know we don't have any other, dates to the prom, but are they willing to say, well, maybe if we are willing to go up to the $275,000 deductible, are they willing to include that experience refund if we do?
I can find out really quickly for you.
I think,
While
because
this work-
I'm
workshop
thinking
is
that's something on the table that might help us be cautious, but hedge our bets in case, things pan out the way we're hoping, because that could be a $76,000 savings if we end up not hitting it. Right.
Yeah, what I'll say is, I don't feel that we are in a good position to take on additional risk based on the last reviews of our balances in the health insurance pool, and with the pressures on the general fund that we can already foresee, which is the backstop for our insurance account. So I do say that we should be taking a more conservative approach, in my opinion, in this first year. I am hopeful that the changes that we made with claim doc and the reconfiguring of our premiums are going to pay back, lower costs that are hitting the plan. But again, we're embarking on something new here, and we still have, well, my hope is too that all these things converge at the same time, because we also had the investment in the wellness center. And again, we knew that was going to be about a 3-year return on investment. So I'm hoping that all these moves come together at one time and they all hit, and there's a lot more clarity, so that we could say now we can see sort of a trajectory that we could articulate taking on more risk with the stop loss. Right now, I kind of feel we are sort of rolling the dice. That's just where my feelings are based on all the data that I've collected. And I just wanted to get a better clarification on what you were proposing, Ms. Ruddy, and what you just asked. How would that? I guess what's our risk factor in a scenario like that for us?
What I would like to ask Brian Specialty is if they will add the experience refund provision and hold your rates.
Okay,
So that way, there's no additional
okay.
exposure for you.
That would be the optimal, because, I mean, that would be great.
Right.
So, I
And if
guess,
they want, the 5% would garner back how much?
Let's see.
I'm sorry, that's what I was trying to look up, because to make the change is $76,000 would be.
If we went from
$76
250 to
lower.
275,
Mhm.
76,000, but that's eaten up if we get.
Yes.
Right,
I guess I'm trying to look at, is the 5% going to
Right.
be more than the 70?
or at least
Yes.
close to Washington, because if we didn't, to be honest, if we didn't eat up $1 million of our reserve fund, I'd be advocating harder for the 275 with the changes we've made, right?
Yeah.
However, I'm looking for another bucket that could kind of offset that gamble, if it were, right? And that way we would be a little less hesitant to change that deductible just by that, that amount.
5% on the $275,000 option would be about $28,000 in additional premium. So you'd still pay less under that scenario. Would pay about $50,000 less than keeping the 250 spec. But it would take you 3 claimants getting to that 275 for the savings not to materialize. And then at 250.
Do we have any insights on the,
31,000 at the 250.
I think one thing we also, we've asked this, I think, a couple of weeks back, is to get an update on essentially the health outcomes, not now just number of visitors and how much are people utilizing the wellness center, but are we seeing reduced, diabetes complications, catching arterial sclerosis earlier, things of that nature?
So what we've been able to do in working with our Marathon Health partners is we're preparing to bring an item before you at the October workshop to kind of give you an update on, it's like the ROI behind it. But now that we've gotten past the 1-year mark, and usually I want to say they want it after 15 months, is now they can finally see, patient X comes in to start and through their lab work, seeing their progress. That's where you're really going to be able to see the impact that the wellness center has had on the health outcomes of our population. So,
Do you have any insight into how many of our participants are fully implementing Claim Doc? Like, have they done the early prep? Because I think that's also a risk factor here. If we had, let's say, less than 70% of our participants who've done the pre-work, then I'd say we're at greater risk, and let's go with a smaller, deductible. But if not, if it seems like that they've adopted this, then that's another piece in our favor.
The nominations.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't think of that question
No, you're
earlier.
good. So while I'm pulling it up, what we can say though is from those nominations that have come through, I believe we're sitting at between 97 to 98% for approval, which is really good. And I want to say we are at about 166 members have submitted providers.
Those are providers that are approved. So you had about 400
10%?
is what I think on the nominations total. But some people, let's say everyone at this table nominates Dr. X. That would count for you all being all
so
different
we don't
people, but only
know.
one
Right.
doctor.
Okay,
As
we
of
yeah, what's
August
the,
13th, we had 169 members that put in nominations, and of those 169, we had a total of 559 nominations. So one person could have, nominated their 3 doctors or 4 doctors, and right now we're sitting at a 97.8% for participating. That's 178 out of the 182.
but there's no way then to predict how many of our participants themselves are now essentially have providers that are opting into Claim Doc, because we only have the number that have submitted, not necessarily the amount of the pie that it affected.
Correct. And over time, as folks go use that benefit, we're pushing out communication for them to go through what they call the pave the way process. And for instance, like our folks are going to be touring and heading out to the different schools in the middle of September to be an added resource so that we don't have to rely on folks coming to our office. We're going to head to their school site so that they have questions of saying, oh, I'm going to my doctor, you know, at the end of this month. I've heard a lot of different things about a new bold change. What do I do? We'll have folks in place to help
And
with
some
that.
many of our employees are not having to submit because someone has already submitted for the doctor that, like their doctor is already there and has been approved.
And through our partners, to Ms. Moore's point too, and through Brown and Brown, we've been able to see from our claims data, like, hey,
Yes.
what's our top 10 list, right?
Yes.
And then sharing that immediately with claim docs so that we know, hey, based on our data that we have access to, these are where our folks are going. Let's start bridging that process. And we've done the same thing with Marathon as well. We're able to pull the data to see where's our wellness center referring folks out to, and then being proactive to go, hey, claim doc, we know our provider at the wellness center is sending folks to these, you know, specific providers based off of their specialty. Let's work to get to a agreement.
And
So
out of
there's
all
many
of your
different
top
avenues.
providers that we submitted back in, April or May, for them to start working, only one has said no. So what I think we are seeing with the people that are taking action is they're the ones we really want to make sure are covered, right? Because they're the ones that have a health issue that is going on, that they are wanting to make sure their doctor is going to work with the plan. If they're someone that's like me that goes to the doctor once a year and I don't really care, like I've seen a nurse practitioner here, I've gone to a doctor here, I do telemedicine because I don't have any health conditions yet, then I'm not going to be the one that's nominating doctors. I don't have one. So, but you may have a lot that fall into that category. The ones that are nominating are the ones that have things going on, which is good because we want them to be engaged.
Do participants have a shared spreadsheet where, so if I have the insurance, I can log in and Dr. Smith, oh, someone already, like, it's
Yeah, so that's an
accessible?
excellent point. There's a claim doc portal where you log in, do that,
Okay.
and under resources, you're able to go in and type in, you know, the zip code 32110, whatever, 50 miles, 100 miles, and it'll give you an entire heat map of all of the providers in that area. And then from there, you can kind of go down and go, hey, I want to look at OBs, I want to look at, you know, primary care, and it'll show you what's in the area. That way, if you're going and, oh, I see Dr. X, they're already in there, you know you'll have a much simpler time when it comes to using that benefit.
And they
then-
can search by name as well.
Yes.
Okay.
But the key point
So
that we
it's
keep
easy
reiterating is
for-
if the doctor's not listed, that doesn't mean they
Then-
don't work with the plan. It means
Yeah,
need
you just
to
need to
nominate them.
initiate it or someone is.
And I would say just even in the past 3 to 4 months of this implementation, it's a pretty fresh idea, especially in this area of the state. So we've already seen just that heat map getting more and more and more. It was when we first did, I was like, oh, I can't even, you know, put a pin anywhere. Now it's pretty substantial.
All right,
So,
and-
yeah, that's great conversation, but in order to kind of like refocus, what I'm wondering from this board is if Ms. Boyle were able to get this information, would we entertain that, and how does that affect the vote for the senior committee? So essentially, on one hand, we're saying, do we go after the plan where we're saying we have a $250,000 deductible? And that protects us against how many people who would essentially go over our self-insured limit again?
3.
For 250,000, 3. If we go over,
3 is the break even.
3 is the break even. If you increase it to 275,000.
and then so the last couple of years, we've skirted between 3, 4, and 5. So but those have been kind of uncontrolled costs where we're now in trying a more controlled environment. However, we don't really know those outcomes. The question is, do we increase to $275,000? That would be a potential savings of $76,000 if we do not exceed the 3-person limit. If we did, let's say, exceed it by 1, one of the questions was, well, let's say that we exceed it by 1, and we're essentially, Ryan still made an exorbitant amount of money off of us. They would give us a refund, that experience refund, which would equate to about $25,000. So essentially, we'd have $25,000, right, Ms. Boyle, is that what you calculated? To kind of even be over that. So essentially, that moves the break even to $76,000 plus the $25,000 to $100,000.
assuming we get the refund included in there.
It may not be within the same fiscal year, it wouldn't be, but it would be, as a whole.
It would be paid out, typically it's 3 to 4 months after you
Right.
renew with them.
You would have to renew. Like if we went out to bid next year and Ryan was not the most cost advantageous for us, and we went back to ISU, we would lose out on that 5%.
Correct.
Yes.
But we'd probably take that into account in making a jump, obviously. So how does that move the break-even points if we were to think that way?
That's why I was just looking bewildered, because I'm trying to do the mental math there. So each carrier has a different loss ratio threshold that you have to stay under in order for you to share in the underwriting profit, right? So if they make $100,000, it doesn't mean that you're getting the $100,000 back. There's a formula, and typically they want to be better than a 65% loss ratio. So if you're only paying them $550,000 in premium, 65% of that is where you would need to keep claims under. And then the delta would be shareable. So I'm requesting their language, and so then the board would like that provision added back since you already had it, and I can find out.
So
as soon
you
as
might be,
possible.
if you can get it without us changing it, then
Yeah.
that would be great. If not, that's the question to the board, do they want to entertain that?
Right.
Because we
if
did
it's
look at the
contingent.
data for the 275,
Mhm.
and we did not, staff did not bring that as a recommendation, just because
Because you have
it
4
is
so
definitely
far
a
this
risk.
year, and you have
Yes.
4 in 23, 24.
I appreciate what Ms. Ruddy's trying to do, because ultimately, that's what we want to do, is pay less. And, whenever we do that, we're just self-insuring a little bit more, right? Because if it doesn't pan out, we've got to fill that gap. And when, there is a time for self-insurance. I mean, there are people that own a home free and clear, and they don't have insurance. They insure because they feel they have the financial resources to fix the losses if it happens, so they don't pay the premium. They take on the risk. Right now, where we are, I just honestly don't think it's a good time to take on more risk as we're entering into this here. I'm hopeful that next year, this conversation will lead to exactly what Ms. Ruddy is proposing here, with a little bit more confidence because of the claim doc savings. We'll see how our high claimants were. We'll have more data on the wellness center and all these things that are coming together. It's just my position that I don't think it's the right time to take on more risk based on our fund balances right now to fill those gaps if it doesn't pan out. That's just my take on it. But I would like to get the rebate, if we could, without increasing our premiums, on what we have right now.
Yeah, the 4 things, the rebate, the rate refund, that was on my list. So if that could happen, that would be great. The claim doc, you answered that. The Advent Health, have we had a meeting? Because I think just getting more and more, especially hospital situations that are local, close.
I actually met with them at 12 o'clock today.
Oh,
And
okay.
I am confident that we're working through all of the language now.
Of course.
Back and forth, but I am confident that we will definitely have an agreement, and that our employees will not receive or experience a gap in service as we just continue to work through this.
Right.
And I will say that Danielle Boyle has done an amazing job, as well as Advent. At first, it took some time to get the right people to the table. Now the right people are at the table, and they have been working nonstop to get this to a yes for us, because it is a different model for them, but I'm confident in our ability to move forward with them.
And they do this in other
Yes.
cities in the state.
Yes,
so,
it's
yeah.
just new to our region, and so we're working through all of that. We have lots of questions, they have lots of questions, And so I am confident in our ability to be able to do that. And we've figured out Mayo for our employees who have already are are being seen at the Mayo Clinic, as well as those who, of course, need that as a service. That's where they have to go. That was already taken care of. So we're in a really good place right now. What we recommend to our employees is to do what they're doing and continue to recommend doctors that they want for the team to reach out to, and they're doing that, and it's being done in a quick manner. The one that everyone is waiting for, of course, is Advent Health, but they are good partners, and I know that we're going to come together with an agreement.
Yeah, thank you. That, and again, it would be helpful if they do, but it looks like, we've done the best that we can.
Absolutely.
The health initiative, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds with this, but Mr. Walker, we talked like months and months ago. I think this would be good, now once everything settles with claim doc, new insurance, and just more of pumping up the health and wellness initiatives. What do we have in our
all
budget?
things health on for October. Your first meeting in October is all things health, and maybe as we look at the board of upcoming board topics, we may can get to the initiatives in September, but we have a lot of conversations around health and our new programs and things as we go into this year.
Yep.
That's coming up in the next couple of weeks.
This is a lot of larger organizations, not school necessarily, but they do this, and this is why.
Yeah.
So if we can start initiating it and make this the new normal, so thank you for your time.
And I know we're not talking about it, but Madam Chair, if I can, I will just say our biggest thing is we have our employees have to go to receive care at the place that is most appropriate for what they're experiencing. For instance, I jammed my finger the other day. It was hurting extremely badly. I mean, I was in a lot of pain. I can't go to the emergency room for that, right? And so we're seeing those types of things, individuals going to the emergency room when they could go to their primary care doctor, or they could even do telehealth, or even go to an urgent care. Those are the things, and so when we come before you in September, hoping to educate our workforce around that is going to also save us tremendously. Because all of these places that we're working through to get into claim doc, that means nothing if we're going to the emergency room when we really should be going to our primary care doctor. And our wellness center, and you pay nothing.
All right, so we'll continue with that recommendation tonight.
Yep, so we'll get that information, we'll bring it back if we can, get that included or not, and this is before you tonight at 6 p.m.
Sounds good. And I think we are going on to the next, which is broker services, Brown and Brown. Thank you, Ms. Boyle.
And Mr. Peter Drolet.
Mr. Peter Drolet.
Good afternoon, Chair Chong, Vice Chair Furry, members of the board, and Superintendent Moore. I come before you today to ask board approval to enter under contract with Brown & Brown Insurance Services Incorporated for healthcare consulting services. The board approved the award of the request for proposals, RFP number 26-03, for healthcare consulting services to Brown & Brown Insurance Services Incorporated at the July 28th school board agenda. This proposed agreement would cover all services included in RFP number 26-03, and the proposed agreement would have an initial term of 3 years with 2 optional 1-year renewals. The agreement is attached as the broker services agreement. Do you have any questions on this agreement and the contents of it?
The 30-day notice, and so, like, from the difference between the original was a 30-day notice and the updated is 90-day notice, is that
For
termination without cause?
yes, the termination for convenience did switch to 90 days. So we just try to pull that real fast. Yes, the 90 days. 90 days is the new termination feature.
And then the price increase, so is that, I know we haven't had an increase from the past, so that's new, but we haven't had one the previous, like, several years, so.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, the $115,000 we're currently paying has been fixed since
For
May of
5 years.
2021.
Thank you.
I would just encourage Mr. Walker and your staff, I know at this time, right, we didn't have other competitive offers for this particular service, and that earlier on, we had looked at the pros and cons of joining Fleet, and this board felt that that organization mainly assisted districts that were not yet self-insured. So as of this date, Brevard, Polk, Collier, Charlotte, Okaloosa, and Hendry are all self-insured and belong to Fleet, and Indian River has been long held self-insured. I feel like we should be monitoring a table of what their stop loss is, what their premium, what they're paying, out in those 3 different areas that would be supported through the consortium pricing that Fleet might provide, so we can continue to monitor that alternative, should it come to that.
And I was going to add, the risk sharing was just initiated with the Fleet with the other counties, and they have grown. So I think monitoring that for potential future, at the time it wasn't, but things have changed a lot since then, and just putting that on all of our radar, just for that. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. Mr. Drellick.
Thank you.
We'll go on to school health service plan presenter, Mr. Finelli, Ms. Postal, and Stephanie, Ms. Ear.
Good afternoon, Chair Chong, School Board members, Superintendent Moore. I have before you today the dream team of student health. Ms. Postel and Ms. Ear do a phenomenal job of supporting our students and collaborating to make sure that we're providing them the highest level care possible. Today before you, we have the 26-28 School Health Services Plan, which is a collaboration between the school district and the health department. And Ms. Postel and Ms. Ear are going to share some of the legislative updates and changes to the plan, and also share with you some numbers which are pretty interesting about the services that we provide to our students.
All right, so I wanted to take this opportunity to brag a little bit on our school health team. Our district health team consists of registered nurses, licensed practical nurses, and school health assistants. During the 25-26 school year, they cared for 82,345 students total, district-wide. On any given day, from scheduled medications to as-needed medications or prescribed procedures, they took care of 995 students each day across the district. So big numbers. Our school health team works really hard. This plan is updated every 2 years. And since the last plan, there have been a few updates. There is now the PULSE, the Plan for Urgent Life-Saving Emergencies. The public schools are now mandated to establish this comprehensive PULSE for cardiac and life-threatening emergencies. It includes forming campus emergency response team, creating activation protocols, and integrating local EMS responder recommendations, and conducting regular AED response drills, and ensuring every public and charter school maintains at least one operational AED registered with the local EMS director, which has been completed. We also added is the type 1 diabetes early detection flyer. Annually, parents and guardians are given the early detection material through, it's from the DOH, and that's shared via Parent Square and social media. Also, within that time frame, students are able to self-carry and self-administer headache medication. Parents get permission through the online portal or the parent portal. And feminine hygiene products. So we work with a organization that provides us with, they're called Oopsie bags. It's the Oopsie Project, Good for Girls Project. They're like little makeup bags that are filled with feminine hygiene products, and they delivered, I think, 2,500 of them to my office a couple weeks ago. So those have been distributed across our campuses and are making a big difference. Parental consent and digital management, electronic consent for health services in compliance with the Parent Bill of Rights, and staff health training such as diabetes awareness, allergies, and seizure management is now through Vector Solution, and it's paired with a return demonstration by a registered nurse. And then our opioid overdose protocol for Narcan. All of our schools have been provided with great cabinets and stocked full of Narcan.
So those are just some of the updates to our 26-28 health plan. We are working on some future initiatives. Anything we can do, we want to do to support our students and provide a safe and healthy environment on our campuses. Any questions?
Yeah, so I grew up with severe food allergies, right? I still have a couple that linger. And so I know how life-threatening this can be. And in reviewing, I see that we now have the ability to carry epinephrine, and there are all those contingencies, but most of those allergies are happening right with food. And so I was wondering if you could walk me through what is the training and or policy procedure in how we're monitoring what students are taking at lunch. And I know that when a student, if they were to buy lunch on the cafeteria monitor, it will say, hey, allergy, right, and list it. However, you know, especially in the younger grades, there are many times to expedite the line, people are handing things out, right? And I don't think that's sometimes as clear in terms of where that safeguard is. Is that safeguard to ensure that the student allergy protection is happening on the teacher, or is that the lunch person, and how are we folding that into these plans?
I'm glad you asked. That's a great question. We've been actually under the process of reviewing how we handle those food allergies. And I've already met once with our food service director, and we have another meeting scheduled next week to discuss further what that looks like, to make sure that there are multiple checkpoints throughout the process to ensure that a student who has a life-threatening allergy never has access to a food that could potentially cause anaphylaxis. So we are reviewing those processes. Currently, the way the processes work is we are required to have a form completed by a licensed physician that shares with us guidance and direction of what the student can and cannot eat and what to do in case of an accidental ingestion. That information is shared not only with the nurse, but also with the school food service team, who then puts it into their system so that when a student scans the line and scans for it and it comes up that they have these allergies, the person that is at the register is checking to make sure that the food they received is in alignment with what they're supposed to have on their plan from the physician. We are again, though, reviewing all of this moving forward to make sure that there isn't anything additional that we could be doing that we're not doing to ensure that a student never gets food that they shouldn't have.
And the teacher is a part of that as well, so the teacher has access to that information as well. So if they're coming through the line, it really is the individual that is checking the student out, per se, that is scanning their badge, and then that's when it displays, and then they do check, just like they check all of our students to make sure that they have what the federal government requires as a balanced meal. They're making sure that students are within what is allowed for their allergies, as well as some restrictions that families have added to those students as well.
But I don't think like VPK, do they have
All
badges?
students do.
Okay, so is it a HIPAA violation to put an icon on a badge to indicate a food allergy or something? Because, you know, when we're talking about teachers, substitutes relying on communication, memory from the lesson plans in the classroom to going to the cafeteria, things of that nature, just wondering, you know, if, right, that, I don't even know if that's allowable.
We can look at the individual student. We do indicate different classes that have restrictions, like we do notify
Right.
that for the class, but we
When
can
it's
definitely
severe.
get with the attorneys around adding individualized things to their badge. Now, the students only have, in elementary, they are only carrying those items when they are going into the cafeteria. So they're not, they don't have them all the time. They're carrying them when they go into the cafeteria, and they're getting, and they're going to be purchasing lunch that day.
Carrying what?
Their ID. that
Oh,
will
yeah,
be
yeah, they don't
scanned.
have,
Yes.
not like the other students.
Yes,
They have,
yes.
yeah. Mhm.
So we can definitely look at the individual student, but it does require, I think everything that we do is still going to require that communication and that the double checking to make sure. The biggest thing is that it's important too, and we need our families to support us with this, around our students sharing food and making sure that they understand we don't allow students to share food. We're not saying and naive to the point that it may happen. However, it is something that we really try to reinforce, that students do not share food in order to ensure not just allergies, but items that individuals shouldn't have, maybe related to their health, or maybe even just preference from their families.
One of the things that we were able to do last year through our School Health Advisory Council was work with our food service department to eliminate peanut products from the line. So we are a peanut-free district in regards to what we serve to our students on the line, because that is known to be one of the most common allergies regarding anaphylaxis, one of the most common food allergies. So peanuts is not a worry, but there are some other ones that we do still have to watch out for.
And day one of school, actually, this is kind of off of your point. So first day of school, when we were in there helping, so I was at Belterre kindergarten class, I was just helping opening, and she said, oh, hold on, Ms. Ramirez, this student has an allergy, you know, so we need to make sure that student, you know, she knew on day one, so they have some process, but I was very impressed, because that was the first day.
Yes, they receive all of
But
the
it's good to
information
know
in
if
advance.
there's something.
Teachers do.
So I just had a couple things, and I reached out via email, so thank you for the response. And I know this may not be able to happen today, but what I would like to see, if possible, there's so many opportunities with grant funding, or even if it's not grant funding, so there are programs, but NEFI in Schools program is one. So for anaphylactic shock, if a student, like the percentage, and I have the data, but you know, I mean, there's a high chance of someone with no allergy going into a campus, in general, any human. But right now, we do not have access to provide that medication if that individual doesn't have a prescription. But I would like to see in the future, you know, looking into that for these programs. So
Are you saying if somebody without a known allergy
Yes.
exhibits anaphylactic shock, that you can administer epinephrine whether or not they've been prescribed?
So yes, and there's programs for schools because of the statistics and children that have allergies that have not known. So there's opportunity for us to have a program like that. One specific is NEFI in Schools program. So NEFI is the medication, epinephrine, in the nasal spray. But I'd like to see that because I know we don't have that. So just for the future, and I know you guys were looking into it, so thank you for that. And also with asthma, so there's a similar program, the bronchial dilator program. So page 23. So that, I think that would be really good, just to look into what the process, what we need to do. And then I did have a question for our tetanus paperwork. So when students, when they're getting the paperwork and they need their tetanus injection, trying to figure out, I'm trying to find my notes now, how we are keeping that paperwork and managing it, because it looked like in the documents that we're still trying to figure out a better way. So have we figured out a better system? So when students have that form, right now they're just giving it to their teacher, but it could get lost in the shuffle. A way to maybe perhaps, I don't know, electronically through Parent Square, or getting it directly to the health department.
Are you talking about just which ones they've had?
No,
The LTDAP. I think the TDAP.
It's in
Yeah.
Skyward, I've seen it.
No, so there's the way that it's done now, the paperwork that comes home, there's not a process, so it's in this chart.
So what happened when we're getting ready for our TDAP outreach, I would send all the paperwork to Mr. Finelli. Now I'm sending it to Michelle. She'll pass it out to all the the nurses at the school, and they would print it out and then put it in the student's, or actually the teacher's box, and it goes home with the student.
Yeah.
And it tells them exactly when to bring it back. And then once it's back, we collect it, we go over Florida Shot to make sure that they didn't have their TDAP yet. A lot of time parents will fill it out, and even though they had their TDAP, so we would just cross it out, it's done, so we move on. I think I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, page 32 that I found it.
Yes, a
So
lot of time it gets missed when it comes back to the teacher, and the teacher to the nurse, and the
Yes.
nurse to the health department.
So just, what do you guys think? Are you trying to come up with a better process
So
for that
what
part?
we were trying to do, maybe this year to get the numbers up, because a lot of time when I go give the shots, the student comes down and they're like, oh, my parents did fill it out. I'm like, I don't have anything. I can't give it to you if I don't have the consent. So then sometimes we try to call the parents, we can't reach them, so then that student don't get anything. So now what we're trying to do is all the paperwork that comes from the student, maybe go directly to the nurses or
Mhm.
something.
That's what I was
So
wondering,
then,
that
yes,
if it
instead
would
of
work.
scanning and emailing me or whatever it is, we'll pick it up original form, and they can make a copy, the nurses can make a copy and keep that, and we can compare.
Are these not allowed to be digital?
Yes, but a lot of time parents, like, paper forms are better for them, but we can do both.
So what's being referred to is the health department offers TDAP shots to our students on campus free of charge with permission from the parent. So we're talking about the paper copy permission slips. The actual shot records are kept in Skyward and also in FL Shots with the state. But this is just a permission slip for permission for the health department to administer TDAP to a student on a school campus, which then removes the barriers for parents to have to find a doctor, go there and get.
So this is tetanus and, or is this just a tetanus?
Usually
I thought you only
just-
got tetanus
No,
shot when you
it's not
stepped on
It's
it.
the
Tetanus was
TDAP.
said, but it's not
TDAP.
tetanus.
It's the tetanus, it's the TDAP, it's the tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis.
Okay, that's why I was, it
Yes.
had to be more than one.
It's
So I'm like, I thought a tetanus is only when you get stuff on a rusty nail.
But it's just the process, so regardless of the vaccine, it's just the way
Right.
in the chart.
For all of it,
It's just
really.
that specific paper, they saw some challenges on getting it, so just in the future brainstorming, and I know you guys are already on top of it, because all the things you've done, so I'm very impressed with, especially because with you coming on and the collaboration with the health department, so I thank you guys for all that. Just the only thing in the future, hopefully we can work towards, the additional support, which I know takes time and process, but having that would be really great, and then,
So to speak to that point as well, we have been working, it is new legislation that we can provide certain emergency medications to any student at risk in an imminent situation. But with that, there are a lot of things that have to be worked through. We have to acquire a physician that's willing to provide a standing order to the district, and then also write procedures for training of that and when it's appropriate to administer, where to store the medications. So we are currently working through that, and Neffy is at the top of our list to get onto our campus.
Yeah, and I'd like to see let's say that it wasn't an actual asthma attack or anaphylactic shock. What is a negative outcome of providing medication that wasn't needed, right?
0.
Okay, because it's really like an adrenaline thing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And the statistics are 1 in 13 students or every 2 students in classrooms have a severe allergy.
Which is,
So
it's
very
scary.
important. It
And
is.
so anything like preventative health, and I know we've been doing great things, so that was just my thing, and thanks for answering it via email.
Because we worry about especially things like a bee sting on the playground. Maybe the student has never
Never
been
had
stung
it.
They wouldn't
before,
know.
so we
Yeah.
wouldn't know, right? So those are things that we have to take into consideration. But we are working with the health department to identify a physician to work towards that standing order and the procedures that go with it.
Thanks for your great work.
I'm looking at 10B when it says ensure health room staff and 2 additional staff are currently certified in CPR. So how many people would that mean with health room staff?
4 total. Yes,
Okay.
it would be the nurse, the health assistant, and then 2 additional staff in the event that they had to cover the clinic.
Okay, some of our schools are like huge, obviously. so.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, that's the minimum requirement under state law.
There may
So
be
we
more.
have to meet at least that minimum, but lots of our schools have significantly more than what's required. When you talk about our athletic coaches and trainers, a lot of them are certified.
And their safety response team,
Yes.
many of them are the ones who end up also being certified in the event of an emergency. They are the ones that are getting there quickly.
In our school, our staff have been trained, medication training already,
Yes.
so we're all done.
And for the public to know when field trips occur, they always have to have someone that has those, no matter what, so that's very impressive, so.
All right, any other questions? All right, we really appreciate you guys. I know this is a lot of work, so thank you for all that you do to take care of our students. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bosserdett, Office of Safe Schools Compliance Reporting.
Good afternoon, school board members, Chair Chong and Superintendent Moore. As required by state statute, the Office of Safe Schools is required to visit and inspect at least each of our schools once every 3 years. And then during the first quarter of the following year, I'm supposed to present to the board the findings throughout the previous school year. So last school year, the Office of Safe Schools came in and inspected 4 of our schools, and we had 0 deficiencies through all those inspections.
Good to hear.
All right, can we move on to the next? So that'll be 9.02.
So also each year, we are required to complete life safety inspections throughout all of our schools. As we have in the past, we partner with the City of Palm Coast Fire Department as well as Flagler County Emergency Management to conduct these inspections. Listed before you today are the deficiencies found from each of those inspections. And as of July 30th, all of those deficiencies have been corrected. I will tell you the vast majority of those deficiencies are due to either exit sign illumination batteries going bad or emergency light batteries going bad, which obviously we replace.
I feel like we had the same issue last year with Benel.
Last year, Benel was significantly higher. I believe there were 60 deficiencies. This year, there was 11, and 2 of those were duplicates. So when we went through it, it's actually 9, but the county listed 11 as deficiencies.
So every school has essentially a facilities person who, not necessarily under your directive, but somebody assigned to kind of be the watchdog on some of these things. And my understanding that this inspection typically takes place when school is out of session. It doesn't make it any less severe because we do have personnel who are working in these buildings over the summer. And so for those people who are assigned to essentially be that watchdog, how are we going to close this gap so that we can still catch these items when the regular staff isn't there, so that everybody working in that building is protected?
I'll speak to the school side of it, and then Mr. Bush and I spoke a little bit, and he could speak to some of maybe adjustments that we're making with our scheduling of items. From the school side, our facilities typically is an administrator who oversees facilities. They're not necessarily looking at emergency exit lights and emergency lights being tested. I will tell you that you can go up to an emergency light and press the button. Obviously, you test it by pressing the button. It can work one time and then go up the next time, and that battery has died out in between. So those, I don't want to minimize the deficiency, but those things do
Is
happen.
it like a house fire alarm where they recommend like, what is it, every 6 months you're supposed to, do we do a proactive battery change or light bulb change or whatever it is?
We do not. It depends on how often they're used, with how long, similar to like a fire alarm in a house, how often it goes off. But if for some reason the power goes off at a site, obviously they kick into place. We're moving to a newer model of emergency lights, which the batteries will last a lot longer than some of our older models. But to answer your question, our school facility staff, they're looking at the overall condition of the facilities. They're not necessarily looking at, testing batteries of exit lights and emergency lights.
We do monthly inspections. Generally, it's somewhere between 10 to 20% because there's no way that we could check every single.
So spot checks.
Correct. And obviously, when they're bad, we replace those. It just depends on if this was something we checked before and it was longer. The batteries typically, if we lose power and they come on, they'll last for 15 to 30 minutes. And sometimes if they're going bad, which unfortunately there's no like indicator on that fixture to say, hey, I'm getting weak. When the power comes back on, it may not charge that battery back up for it to work. So in the event, so if we know there's been a power outage, we do try to, regardless of where our inspections are, we do try to go around and do some spot checking. Well, I don't, it's very difficult to say that we would never have any of those illuminating not ever pop up, because it's literally, we could walk it, all of us today, and I can tell you tomorrow we can walk those same thing and we will find ones that don't work, that were working yesterday.
Yeah, I totally get that, but right, when the majority of them are in the single digits and then we've got 3 that are in double digits, that's what I'm trying to kind of see, like, okay, what is different about those other sites that maybe our practices we can, highlight for the sites that are in the double digits?
So I think as far as Matanzas, there were a few that were on there that had to do with backflows. And what David spoke to, part of what our struggle is we do our inspections towards the end of the school year. So we have a company come in and they do the inspections. That's where you saw they said that was red tag. So they came in, they found a deficiency, so they tagged it. Then we have to get those deficiencies, turn around, write a PO for them to fix it. In between that process is generally when the fire department marshal will come around and do the inspections, and that's where they see those deficiencies. What we're going to move to, instead of doing that during or a little bit before the summer, we're going to try to start doing those in January, so that we're doing those inspections in January, have them fixed hopefully by March, depending on what they are, so that when the inspections, on those particular ones, those will not be there because we'll already have them repaired prior to the school, the fire department.
Yeah, I like
doing
that
inspections.
strategy better too, because you're in the thick of the middle of the
Correct.
school year, and we want to make sure things are all working when we've got a lot of
Yes,
kids in the
ma'am.
building, so that sounds great. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Any other questions, concerns? All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to finance consent. 5.01, purchase orders over 10,000.
Afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, and Superintendent Moore.
Welcome, Ms. Womack.
Thank you, Mrs. Cushing. I'm here to answer any questions you have on finance consent. I will just note, there are no charter school or district financials, as the June financials will be presented via an audit report for the charter school and our annual financial report in a few weeks. We'll start with 5.01.
I think, one of the items that I just pointed out is there are a couple of vendors on there that we, in my 2 years, or close to 2 years, we're giving them significant amounts of money. And I know sometimes those vendors are either piggybacked or they're negotiated through NEFAC. And just kind of keeping a laser eye on what is that evaluation period in which we take a look at our biggest vendors expense-wise and ensuring that they're still competitive for us, right? I know that's more difficult when we're piggybacking or we're under another organization, but definitely that's something we can monitor when it's a standalone contract with us. And my understanding is now we have a procurement individual that will be more on their radar. Do you all oversee any of that, or is that up to the individual departments to monitor?
Anything having to do with construction or maintenance would be under operations with Mrs. Johnston. And then as far as like Xerox and some of the items you mentioned, that would go through Peter Drolet. We have had a turnover in that position probably the last 3 years, 3 different people. So with Peter getting in here and getting to know what he needs to know for the past year, I know that is something that's on his radar. I cannot remember the timing. I know Mrs. Bush sent an email about the last time we did some of these things, but that's definitely something that he will monitor as far as items that hit all the schools.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Any questions on purchase orders? All right, 5.02, vendor payments.
No, I think this is under another one. I just kind of wanted to give an update to everybody. Maybe this is this one, I can't remember. I didn't note it in the email. But one of the expenditures, or some of the expenditures, are under the FTC work that's going on. There's a renovation to a building, there's some expansion going on there, and I'm optimistic and excited to share that some of the projections will mean, or the outcomes of this work will mean that they'll be able to increase some space for HVAC apprenticeships, that there'll be space for 20 additional students, and they'll be able to expand the nursing assistant class by 12 students as well. So that's just right off the top of it. So I'm excited to see that come to fruition and get started. I thank you for that.
Okay. All right, 5.03, deletion of inventory. Alright, 5.04, finance budget revisions.
I just for Indian Trails Middle School and Old Kings, just for, there's identical entries
Which one
for
are you looking at?
renovation. So page 5 is Indian Trails Middle School.
Is that
It's on there
is that
at 2
transfers?
separate sections for 82,966, but it's on there twice, but in 2 different areas. Are those 2 different projects, or was that just?
You're on budget transfers, correct? Okay. Can you tell me the,
So it's page 5, revision 25-01013, and then 75. For ITMS. But they're in 2 different spots, so it could be 2 different classrooms, but the same amount.
Is 2501013.
Page 5.
Yeah, it's for classroom renovations.
Transfer to cover ITMS classroom renovation.
and what's the second one?
It's just a few below it.
The second one is 01075.
And there's a similar one too with Old Kings, so but they're in different areas, so I wasn't.
I believe that might be the half-cent sales tax.
It is.
Yeah, that's the half-cent sales tax funds that were spent on classroom renovations. So when we do the budget initially, a pot of money is put into a certain code strip. As we spend it out, we have to move it to the correct function and object. And the other one is for Old Kings.
Yes.
So.
It's just like two duplicates, so I didn't know if it was.
They're not duplicates, it's two
It's
separate
for the exact
schools.
same amount though for both?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I would have to refer to Mr. Deasing, but their same amount was allocated to each school, so that's probably why you're seeing the same amount. There was
Okay.
a certain amount allocated in the half-cent budget
Mhm.
for all these school classroom projects. So they're not duplicates, one's for Indian Trails and one's for Old Kings.
Well, no, Indian
Right?
Trails has
Indian Trails
two
has two.
for
Oh,
for the
okay.
exact
Yes.
same amount, page 5, and Old Kings has two for 165,000 twice. But they both have different codes, so which shows different projects. So I'm just wondering, is that
I'm gonna pull it up. You ready?
duplicate spending? They're both on page 5.
For Old Kings.
No, the second one for Indian Trails.
So Indian Trails is the 75010075.
01075.
So
And it's 25-01013.
I would have to dig into this a little deeper with
Okay.
Mr. Deasing, but I will get these budget transfers numbers, and
Okay.
then I'll send something to the board.
Okay, thank you.
But all
Yes,
of
I have
these
both of them.
things,
Yes.
I mean, as long as they're over $10,000, they're coming through previous purchase orders and
Yes.
vendor payments. These are these are most likely things that we've already seen. It's just moving the money to different
Yes,
funds.
if there was a budget transfer done twice, it's only being spent once.
Mhm.
If there was a duplicate. So what happens at the end of the year is if that was done in error by the secretary or the bookkeeper, that would still remain in the half-cent fund. It would just roll into fund balance.
Okay. Because they
So-
have different codes, so I'm just wanting to make sure
Revision
if
numbers.
it's different projects, but they're the exact same, I just want to make sure that 165,000 is
It
it
looks
there
like-
or not there, and
looks like a
and
duplicate.
the
It does, because they're the same amount
82,966.
as for Old Kings, but Indian Trails is split, but for the same amount.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure,
If you add it
I'll
together.
get with Mr. Deasing, but based on what I'm looking at, it looks like a duplicate. Like I said, it would only be spent once, but I want to get more detail as to the full cost of the project before responding.
Thank you.
So I had a question on, it seems like we, Ms. Bush, related to a question that I had emailed you on, and just kind of get some clarity. Seems like when there are other VPK providers, I think it's for VPK specifically, that the Title I funds for those other providers run through our Title I department, and we process the payment for their resources or professional development?
Are you referring to the private schools?
Yes.
So there was the Christ the King,
Yes.
right, professional development, I'm just.
So all of the budget is in the district's budget, and the money is allocated to the private schools,
Mhm.
but that does all run through us. So,
Mhm.
for example, the Title I you're mentioning, Tammy York's group does all those purchase orders for each
Mhm.
for each private school, and we process them all.
And so are we essentially, for example, how much do we know each site should receive? Because that should be based upon enrollment, right?
It's a formula,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, and so we're having to essentially do their accounting and bookkeeping for that program.
We have to allocate to them the amount that they receive that's coming out of our funding.
Mhm.
And they write out, similarly to our schools, a plan of how they're going to use the dollars, but
Mhm.
it does flow through us to ensure that they have those dollars for those services.
It's
Sure.
very similar to the charter schools
Yes.
FEFP payments
Yeah.
that flow through us. We get all the funds, We have to figure out the revenue calculation worksheet, and then we're responsible for paying them twice a month.
Okay, gotcha.
It's part proportionate planning. So based on the FTEs that they said, we're given our state dollars and allocation of federal dollars through the title programs 1 through 9. IDEA is in the same bucket as well. And therefore, we give them a budget amount. They tell us how they want to spend those dollars. We cannot dictate that to them. But then we assure that they're meeting the state requirements and standards for their expenditures.
Gotcha.
And then we report that back to the state.
Okay, thank you.
Any other finance questions? Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Academic services consent, 7.02, Mr. Reeves. Welcome.
Ms. Chong, board members, Superintendent Moore. Before you is a memorandum of understanding with Flagler Schools and the Furry Institute, which is part of the University of Central Florida. It's an exceptional opportunity for us to continue to build relationships with post-secondary education sites. This year will be the development of questions and curriculum usage for us that gives us professional collaboration in this space, and partnering with them. And the benefit for us is that we retain full control of the information that we develop,
Get that AP.
and then get the resources to go with it. So it's a great opportunity for our staff and for our students.
So did they reach out to us, or are you procuring, is this something that you and your
We've
office?
reached out to them.
That's wonderful, great job.
Thank you. It's in place for the next 2 years for us.
7.03, career pathways.
So this is our annual requirement with the state of Florida, and this is our CTE articulation agreement. Just gives us multiple paths for our students and for the workforce, and the agreement expands opportunities for our students.
I'm just so glad we can offer these things. I mean, we have medical assisting, cybersecurity, awesome. They can get something in high school and already have a job.
Yeah, carpentry, building, construction,
It's all aligned with our CTE plan from our district.
criminal justice.
All right, 7.04, Flagler Volunteer Services Reading Pals.
Absolutely. This is such a great program for our students and our community. We really have hundreds of people that participate in this, and we work closely with our volunteers. Ms. Frank and others provide professional learning for them, so that when working with our students on one-on-one situations or small groups, they can provide reading, I won't say necessarily instruction, but support in that space that doesn't contradict what we're doing currently in our classrooms. It's a great relationship we have with the program.
Fantastic. Are we responsible for screening the people, or is the volunteer services?
So they go through our program through HR for their screening. It's required.
Thank you. Any other questions?
And I want to just say, I mean, these individuals are paying to have their background checked, to come in and volunteer with our students weekly, many of them multiple days a week. And so to the individuals that are doing this through Reading Pals, we are so thankful for them, thankful for the foundation. They jump-started us last year, the year before, to get everyone through and get their background checks done and paid for when we had that big transition. So thankful for the foundation and their support with doing this. And many of these Reading Pals are starting with students in kindergarten and seeing them through multiple years of elementary. And so we appreciate them and all of their support, all of our volunteers.
Absolutely.
And a lot of them, they write little cards. My son had
Yes.
it a long time ago, and randomly,
precious.
they're very connected, and they do help build the confidence of these kids. So
Absolutely. It's a
thank you
great
for
program.
spearheading all that.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Mr. Reeves. Okay.
You're getting your extra lots, yeah.
Good afternoon, board. Once again, I am here to present the Sarah Consulting contract for 26-27. I just want to give some background information. Sarah Consulting They are our lobbyists who meet with the legislators in and out of season. As you, I'm sure know, a lot of the work is done out of season in the several months leading up to the session starting. Once the session starts, there's a lot of decisions already made prior to that. So they do work year-round for us. They work a lot with the language development. Once the language is being proposed, they make sure that what the language being proposed fits into our school district and that we are actually able to implement those things. They work with the legislators, the people involved with filing the bills, and like I said, they make sure that the language is something that we can uphold in our school district that's going to benefit us. They have been our lobbyists for about 12 years. They meet with us weekly, our cabinet meeting during session. They also have 2 meetings for our leadership team to go over legislation prior, during, and then they also have a follow-up that they do at our leadership meeting to let all of our leaders know, here's what happened during the session, here's the outcome, here's what we're going to hope to do to build on it. As far as during session, there's always a big push for the FEFP and where it's going to end up. They work with myself and the superintendent very closely to get the initial data out to us ASAP so that I can turn it around and say, hey, here's what it looks like, here's what we're going to increase, here's what we're going to decrease, here's what our concerns are, here's our wins. They also do a lot of support with that for us, just going through the session. Once the session is over, the work is not done. There's a lot of questions about changes that have been made. I'll tell you one big one this year that we needed a lot of support was the change to the TSIA. That happened at the second half of the session. It really impacted our bargaining, and as far as understanding the language, the bargaining team had one idea of what it meant, we had a different. So the lobbyists are very good at reaching out to other school districts, to FADs, to just different groups that really do help us. One of the big wins that I know came out of this year was the Rural Renaissance. This, I believe it started a year ago or 2.
The 2 years we've been talking about it this year came through. Yeah.
So this one finally came through. I don't remember offhand the total amount for our NEFECT consortium, but the amount coming directly to Flagler schools is a little over $200,000. That is something that the Sarah brothers have been working on very hardly over the past couple years.
Yeah, the 200,000 is directly to us. That's not including what will be used to the consortium to support us.
Every year they do continue to ensure our Adults with Disabilities dollars, which is $535,000. That supports our Step Up program. Years ago, I want to say about 12 years ago, it was under Superintendent Oliva, that funding got cut. And that whole program was dismantled within the first quarter because we could not afford it. Fortunately, that funding did come back to us through our lobbyist support and other school districts as well. One other thing that was big a couple years ago was their work for the add-on funding that the state was trying to change, trying to decrease somewhat, which would have had a big impact on us. I will tell you, me personally, and I speak for the superintendent, one of the great things that I really do appreciate is anytime I reach out to them, I have a response within less than 5 minutes. We do not have to sit around and wait. They are very, very proactive, knowing that we're trying to get things done just as quickly as possible and need, the answers now. So at this time, I will take any questions on this contract. The cost does remain the same for the 3rd year in a row at $48,000 for the fiscal year.
Yeah, I've enjoyed working with them for the last 2 years. They've been helpful, answering questions, as you stated. I know they have weekly meetings with the superintendent staff when legislation is in session. When I compare, though, specifically, for example, with Brevard, what they require or ask for from their lobbyists are some additional, instead of just saying, hey, these are tasks that they're going to do, here are the I guess, outcomes or documentation or whatever it may be that they're going to ask of. So for example, I know we put together our legislative plan, but it's almost like one of the items that they describe is they have a legislative dashboard that is kept up to date with things like who is the current sponsor, what committee is it in. I know a lot of that we can get from greater bills that are on the state level, but not necessarily things that they're advocating for in terms of our specific needs, like how would you track something like rural renaissance, or what the sentiment is, or who seems to be pro, who are they still working on, right? And I know that when they have the weekly meetings, right, we have a school board liaison. However, we can't have more than one at that meeting. And so some of the rest of the school board is not really able to get the full understanding of how things are progressing. Not only, so it could be as simple as putting that information through an AI that creates notes or a briefing so that we can make sure we get it in a timely manner, right? I think that would be extremely helpful. And at the end of the year, what I would appreciate is something like an outcomes report. So for example, what did they get done? Who were the legislators who were impactful or committees that we could also reach out and thank, but also what didn't get done and maybe why, right? What were the holdups? What did they have to prioritize, or what did they choose instead? What was the feedback? And probably a lot of that context you would get in those conversations, right? But if we had an artifact like that, I think it would, summarize that legislative year for us.
Yeah, we can discuss that in senior cabinet. Like you mentioned, we do get a lot of that information as far as the names and stuff during those weekly calls. But the superintendent and I will speak to them about some kind of summary at the end of the season.
Yeah, and I just want to pass on a little bit of wisdom that I picked up over the almost 4 years. Lobbyists in general kind of have a negative connotation to their name because it mostly revolves around special interest, right? So it's an outside group trying to get something done to benefit the private sector or whatever. But in our world, it's a little different. We are a public entity. These lobbyists are up there in Tallahassee all year long, where we can't necessarily be there. We could have somebody specifically for that role, but it costs us a lot more than $48,000. And I'm not advocating for the Sarahs or not against them or anything, but I've enjoyed the relationship that we've had. But the other part of it is that Tallahassee has a lot of turnover. And so, and I've learned, in the beginning had a very good relationship with Speaker Renner, right? And still do, but he's no longer in that role. So therefore you have to build a new relationship with the next one in. And then you have term limits. People are term limited out, so they leave. Some people don't win elections, this type of thing. So there is value to having somebody in the mix that's effective, that's respected. And so I just want, for the benefit of the public, to understand when we're talking about lobbyists, what it means to Flagler schools. And I will be honest, in the first year of my term, everything had to pass the merit test. And I looked into the lobbyists, and I talked to Patty and I talked to others. I said, well, what value do they provide outside of just talking to legislators? And as I went down the list, we get, I do believe, honestly, that we get a lot more value out of the money we're paying for their involvement after session and helping it bring through. So I just wanted to share that from my experience and for whatever it's worth. So.
And I appreciated Ms. Moore, went in great detail with me, and even you, Ms. Patty, the things that I think as board members we don't talk about here at the table for the public to hear. So the past few months, just seeing what they've done and what they do for the district staff. So I do appreciate them. And I think as a board member going into Tallahassee this year, perhaps sitting down with them more prior, because I really feel like we can really bring things back to this district, but we need just a little bit more planning time ahead, organizing, presenting, just so that I would love to do before, and I know they would be willing to, just, now that we have kind of the ball rolling, but I know we have that legislative session going on with core topics, so just kind of working more together before, and then I really appreciate you letting us know all the things that they do behind the scenes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brings us to any other public comments?
You don't have any public comment?
Any board member requests?
So I'm just going to add officially for the board member requests for myself for more investigation with the NEFI program or similar programs, because there are others, as well as the bronchial dilator program. As I know that will take time, but just to put it on the list for the future, and that is what I'd like to. Thank you.
I would ask you after, but it wouldn't be in the sunshine. What is the bronchodilator program? What medication is it?
So it's whatever medication. So you have to have a physician on your board, which they've already looking into having. So that physician would be the one to write the prescription. You can get medication, whatever medication that, they would say, maybe they need, the albuterol or, whatever type of steroid, and it would be in-house. And so if there was a medical emergency, only people that have the training, so like you mentioned, what if you have epi and you don't need it? The only people that would administer it, it doesn't have to be the nurse, but it could be, the principal. And if they went through the training and someone needed it, they could get the albuterol and, legally provide it to that child to prevent death.
Any other requests? Okay, all right, we'll go into closing comments.
Thank you, staff, for everything, and just want to say I know there was a lot on the agenda today. I think we moved through it pretty well. I'm very impressed and really great information. I'll save a lot of my other comments for tonight, but thank you for all the hard work. I know it's a lot behind the scenes.
Yeah, thank you for a wonderful, very smooth start to the school year. It's a well-running machine. Many of the positions were filled early on. We didn't have a lot of gaps. There's still a couple of things that they're working on with hiring, but most schools are sitting very, very well. I feel the rollout for transportation has been much smoother. The proactive work that Mr. Walker has done has been wonderful. Just an overall really great experience. If we could just get our Wi-Fi to stay on, then life will be perfect, right, Mr. Deezer? But, and thank you to all of the staff and faculty who came just really eager to start off the year with a bang and hit the ground running, and just so many positive things happening in the district. Doesn't mean we're going to have not have additional issues, but we welcome those challenges as a cohesive team. So we're really looking forward to this year. Thank you.
Yes, I just echo a lot of the sentiments of my colleagues here, and I'll save the rest of my comments for this evening.
Yeah, thank you everybody for a great first couple of weeks at school. See you tonight.
Happy 11th day of school. I know you guys were wondering what today is. It is the 11th day of school, and I agree. We have had such a great start to the school year. I want to just also say we have had a great smooth start, and there are going to be bumps, and we are addressing them, and we will address them and move forward. Kudos to our families and our transportation department for all that they have done to ensure our students were routed. I want to take a point of personal privilege and just highlight the guiding principle of teamwork. And I want to call out Mr. Corey Bush. And people would not know this, but the first days of school, where you will find Mr. Bush in the afternoon is sitting in transportation supporting his peer. And so Corey, just when I looked over and saw him, he reminded me of something that I think that we are doing better than ever, is really living out the guiding principle of teamwork and living out the guiding principle of excellence, quality, and consistency. And so it's great, things are running well in plant services, but for him to leave and go and help his peer during a busy time just is a small example of what is happening across this district. And so I just appreciate our faculty, our staff, and our community and our parents so very much. And can't wait to see you guys tonight, and tomorrow's the 12th day of school, okay? Happy 11th day of school.
Thank you, this meeting is adjourned.
Ms. Moore, both school board representatives from Matanzas and